I want to put this out because it's an interesting story from a new study about Noah's Ark. Now, Noah could be considered the ultimate prepper. Everybody was making fun of him, but he was the only one that survived, right? And maybe the story's not just a story. Maybe it's an historical fact. I can point to a couple other scientific things out there that, may shed some light onto, how could it rain so many 40 days and 40 nights? I don't know, but let me put it to you this way. There's also a lot of scientific conjecture that the Earth is actually filled with water besides molten lava. There's actually oceans underneath the oceans. And it's scientific conjecture, but who the hell knows? There's a lot of things that scientists don't know. But this is one thing that was calculated scientifically that gives a little more weight to the story, too. And Noah's Ark could have floated 70,000 animals if built to the dimensions as according to the Bible. According to the Bible, God instructed Noah to build a boat which is 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. And he recommended gopher wood for the enormous boat, right? And the students, what they did was they took some calculations and averaged out the Egyptian and Hebrew cubit measurement, and they came up with 48.2 centimeters. So the ark was around 144 meters long. Then they applied Archimedes' principle of buoyancy and the approximate animal weights of the 70,000 animals, and they found out that the ark would have floated. So who the hell knows, man? Maybe this story's true in a literal sense. The one thing I always got about the story, too, was Mount Ararat, which is between the Caspian and Black Seas, is supposedly the location of the ark, high up on the mountain. And also, if you look at the Black Sea and where Istanbul or ancient Constantinople was, that little landmass could have easily been breached by water, and that would have filled up the Black Sea. At one time, that whole Black Sea area allegedly was not water, was actually land. So the actual flooding story does have a lot of significance, in a scientific, historical way. And also now that the boat that Noah was instructed to build per the actual measurements that the Bible talked about could have actually floated 70,000 animals. It's pretty wild. And, I have to put it this way. Noah was the ultimate prepper. And what were most people doing at the time? Laughing at him, weren't they? They were laughing up to the last minute, they were. That's about what it was. Anyway, I just figured I'd put this out because I thought it was interesting that scientifically, the boat actually, per the instructions that are actually laid out in the Bible, scientifically, Noah's Ark could have floated the 70,000 different species of animals that he was supposed to gather up. And, if there was a flood in the way it was exactly in the Bible, like, sometimes, some people would speculate that it was probably just the Black Sea area, because the Black Sea area was actually not ocean all the time. It was actually land, and there were civilizations underneath the water there. That's been, I think, pretty much proven. And it flooded at one point in time. But considering that the ark allegedly was found high up on Mount Ararat in Turkey, between Caspian Sea and the Black Sea, that would also state that the water was much higher. So maybe it's true in quite a literal sense. And, it seems impossible, but, like I said, there's scientific conjecture out there that the Earth is actually has parts of the Earth are actually filled with water. The Earth actually has a lot more water than what we actually see for the oceans. So who the hell knows? Who the hell knows, really? But, what I find interesting, though, is that scientifically it's feasible. It's feasible. And Noah, being the ultimate prepper, was mocked by all his contemporaries, and guess what? He was the only survivor, wasn't he? He was the only survivor, wasn't he? So, it tells you, son, the moral to the lesson is, don't go with the crowd. Go with what the truth is, and go with what is right is, because the crowd, 99% of the time, is wrong. And we see this often today, where the crowd can be easily led by the latest gizmos or garbage that comes out of Hollywood, or having the latest craze of technology or whatever the hell it is that's out there that people must have, and they don't stick with the basics. And the basics a lot of times is just the simple truth of what really works, right? So Moses was a prepper too. Noah was a prepper. So, but it looks like there's a lot more feasibility to the story due to this recent calculation. And if you really examine the story, it may be true in a literal sense too. It may be. I'm not somebody that's actually somebody that pushes the Bible in a literal sense all the time, but historically, there's a lot more accurate information in the Bible than people tend to think. And not that I'm extremely religious or Bible study or that type of thing, but historically, actually, the Bible has a hell of a lot more information in it that's historically accurate in a literal sense than most people think. The more things change, the more they stay the same. So there's a lot of naysayers out there that are like laughing at Noah. They're laughing at the preppers today, and maybe the preppers are the new age Noahs that will survive the coming storm. Maybe it won't require an ark, maybe it'll require more. But I found it to be quite an interesting story that Noah's ark could have been true in a literal sense, because the dimensions, as stated in the Bible, made the ark big enough and buoyant enough to support the 70,000 species of animals that Noah was instructed to get and gather up. So that's a highly interesting study.